I've used a lot of meal services, but Hungry Root truly stands out because it's built around the way real families live and eat. They don't just send meal kits. They personalize your grocery cart and meal plan based on your preferences and dietary goals. All I had to do was take a short quiz, and right away, their smart cart technology started building a cart that fit how we eat. Now, each week feels easier, like someone else is doing the thinking for me. I've been focused on cleaner eating lately, and I love that Hungry Root keeps out over 200 additives, including things like high fructose corn syrup and artificial sweeteners. Their meats are hormone and antibiotic free, and the produce options include organic and non GMO picks. They also stock brands I already trust, like Oatly, Vital Farms, and Harmless Harvest. One of our favorite meals has been the teriyaki salmon with green beans, light, flavorful, and done in 12 minutes flat. Plus, I've noticed we waste less food, spend less time shopping, and even save money by skipping those impulse grocery buys. Take advantage of this exclusive offer. For a limited time, get 40% off your first box, plus get a free item in every box for life. Go to hungryroot.com/Dr. Meg and use code Dr. Meg. That's hungryroot.com/Dr. Meg. Code Dr. Meg to get 40% off your first box and a free item of your choice for life. hungryroot.com/Dr. Meg. Code Dr. Meg.
The views, information, or opinions expressed during the Parenting Great Kids podcast are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of Dr. Meg Meeker, Meeker Parenting, and its employees. While Dr. Meg Meeker is a licensed medical professional, the information shared in this podcast is for general informational purposes only and should not be considered medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. If you have any concerns or questions about your health or the health of a loved one, please consult with a qualified healthcare professional.
Did you know that nearly 42% of kids have been bullied online, and almost 1 in 4 have experienced it more than once? Shockingly, over 60% of these instances occur on YouTube, Snapchat, and TikTok. Cyberbullying is a serious issue, with middle school-aged victims being almost twice as likely to attempt suicide than non-victims. These statistics are alarming. Today's special guests, who tragically became experts on this subject through the loss of their son, are Rose and Rob Bronstein, founders of Buckets Over Bullying. They join us to share their very painful story and help us unpack this complicated issue as they share about their nonprofit initiative and the work they're doing to eliminate cyberbullying among children and teens.
I think when you add in the element at the speed and the breadth at which things travel in social media, but then when you throw into the mix, giving young people a device by which they can communicate with thousands or tens of thousands of people 24/7 and be communicated to by people whom they've never met or never will meet, who might have all sorts of intentions, good or bad. And then on top of that, when you have schools, which when you're a middle schooler or a high schooler, the nexus of, a lot of your life is the school. That's how you know the people that you're probably messaging with, for example. And when the schools are either ill-equipped or the schools ignore common sense and decency and, in our case, the law, and then their first, second, third reaction is just to cover their own behinds in their own careers when something bad happens, you can appreciate why, not just in our situation, but on a much larger scale, it's just this sort of combustible issue that's been created.
Welcome to Parenting Great Kids. Here's your host, Dr. Meg Meeker.
So can you tell us a little bit about your personal story that led you to start Buckets Over Bullying?
Sure. In December of 2021, our son Nate, who was a sophomore in high school here in Chicago, he had transferred as a sophomore to a private school, the Latin School of Chicago. And he was joined the JV basketball team that year. And this is still kind of coming out of, I guess, call it coming out of COVID. COVID was still in the forefront of things. So there were still masks and there were still a lot of protocols, but they were at least in school. And that is the reason why he had transferred to Latin, because earlier that year, that school had made a formal announcement that they were going to be in person starting in the fall. They were eliminating Zoom. And Rob and I, that was very important for not only our son, but all of our children to be in the classroom, along with all the millions of parents across the country who had also had it. And all we wanted was to get our kids back in the classroom. So that was the driving force as to why we had asked our son, are you okay with transferring to Latin? You'll be in the classroom. It'll be way better. He said, sure. Anyway, he's on the basketball team, and the weekend of December 10th, 11th, 12th, there's a basketball game against a rival school, the school that he used to go to that we transferred him out of. It's called Francis Parker. And Francis Parker was ahead in the basketball game. My son was accused of, and we still don't know till this day whether it was him or not, but we're pretty confident it wasn't him, of posting a W, implying that Parker was winning the basketball game. And because of that, the entire JV basketball team, like in a mob mentality, started attacking our son Nate for posting that, because in their minds, he was not showing loyalty to his own team. Unfortunately, based on what we know, we don't think it was him. We think it was someone else. And everyone's covering for each other and making up their own stories to protect themselves. But that's the weekend where it started. He was attacked on a message text thread. There were 20 students on it, all from the JV basketball team. About 15 of them, some worse than others, were harassing him, threatening him, humiliating him, insulting him.
Just for that one post that you're not even sure he posted.
From the forensics, from the phone, what we've been able to see, he said it wasn't me, it was someone else.
I mean, not that again, it was not justified under any circumstance, but yes, the only trigger, if you want to call it that, was the W. There was nothing else.
The W, that was it. He didn't, for the record, he didn't insult anyone. He didn't threaten anybody. He just, and again, we firmly believe it wasn't even him, but he's not here to defend himself. So he was cyberbullied over a group text message thread. And then some of these kids decided to jump on Snapchat and attack him from there. So a varsity student who wasn't even on the JV basketball team decided to jump on this mob mentality bandwagon and start to harass our son. He created a Snapchat message with his face on it, with his middle finger in the air from his home, with his name on it, and with a lot of insults. And then what happened was he posted it, and the friends that he was with thought it would be fun to grab it, add more insults, more threats, and repost it. And this is how the cyberbullying starts. They take a screenshot, they add more insults, and then post it on their story. And then another kid picks it up. So we know 6 kids took that cyberbullying message. They kept adding more things to it, and it kept circulating and circulating. So we know that it reached hundreds of kids within the school, and then it even went outside of the school. One of the kids who took the Snapchat and reposted it, he said he only sent it to 200 of his friends. And he said it in a way that, very casual, what's the big deal? It's only 200 of my friends. And doesn't think that he did anything wrong. There was an emoji on there that implies smoking our son's ashes. And another student from the JV basketball team sent our son a separate Snapchat message telling him to go kill himself. And what kids are doing nowadays is they're using different acronyms or different ways to tell each other. It's called suicide baiting. So they'll use acronyms like KYS, kill yourself. They'll say things like, you should unalive yourself, you should be 6 feet under, lots of different ways to threaten each other. This is why so much of this is happening. So what's most disturbing to my husband and I, which I still till this day, 2 years later, I still can't reconcile, is the school's role in this. My son, on a Sunday night, he sent an email to the dean of students at the school. And according to the school policy, that's who you report cyberbullying to. So our son followed the rules. He sent her an email saying, I need to report cyberbullying. This Snapchat is going around behind my back. I'm really angry about it. And he attached a copy of the Snapchat. So it had a very clear picture of the varsity basketball player who started it. His face is on it. He's very easily identifiable. And there were 3 names at the top of the Snapchat, very clearly marked who the kids are and actually the timestamp. The administrator responded to our son soon, very soon, like 10, 12 minutes later, saying, okay, let's have a meeting tomorrow. So from what we understand, she has all the evidence. They have a meeting. She said she's going to take care of it. This is Monday, December 13th. School's out on Friday for the semester. So they've got final exams. They're trying to close up for the semester. He has a meeting with her at 11 a.m. At 1 p.m., after my son had already reported it, he gets cyberbullied again over the text message chain with the 20 kids on it. And this kid takes a picture of my son, puts it on the text thread to humiliate him, harass him, make fun of him. And my son is on his way to take a math final. So between 11 and 1, the school didn't mobilize and say, we've got names of kids. There's an incident. We got to get on this, obviously, because my son was cyberbullied again. And then we know from his phone and the forensics that when he got home that day from school at 5 o'clock that day, he was researching suicide on Google.
Gosh. All within a week's period of time.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Okay. And there's a bullying policy in Illinois. Okay. Where a student reports an incident of bullying or cyberbullying, it triggers that the school has to notify the parents.
Were you notified?
So here's the clincher.
Never. What you were just told took extensive litigation to even find out. That's how much the school hid it from us. They fought tooth and nail to keep their failure hidden from us.
Oh, wow.
It took over a year to find out what my wife just told you.
Wow.
Yeah, the email that my son sent to the administrator, it took a year and a second lawsuit against the school for our son's files. They wouldn't give them to us. And once we filed the second lawsuit and we humiliated them publicly in the Chicago area, they acquiesced and said, you can sit down and read through your son's files. We're not going to give them to you, with their lawyer watching over us. I mean, in the most undignified, we're already suffering. They've already hid it from us. They didn't protect our child. They didn't tell us. By law, they were required. If that dean of students would have called me at 3:30 in the afternoon that Monday and said, I want to let you know your son Nate came in to report cyberbullying. He gave me a screenshot. We need to have a meeting. We're going to call the parents of the bullies involved. I can guarantee you, and Rob can too, that our son would be alive today.
The law in Illinois is clear as can be that a school must inform both sets of parents and must commence an investigation. And instead, what the school told us, which is absurd and negligent, what the school claimed months and months later, after this whole story had come to light and we were trying to find out what happened, the dean of students and the school claimed that our son asked her, please don't tell my parents.
Oh, come on.
That's their story. Yep, that's their story.
And they're sticking with it. So all of a sudden, an adult woman is going to take advice from a minor, right? And I had already communicated with the school that semester that my son was struggling in school. We were having problems at home. He was in therapy because of things just weren't like jiving well there. He was having a hard time integrating. All of that's documented. We met with the school social worker. They gave me recommendations on mental health support. Knowing that, I had reached out and said, we need help. He's not in a good place. I'm concerned about him. I'm concerned about his well-being. And then he gets cyberbullied and there's no flag on him saying, this is a high-risk kid. We need to tell the parents, right away that he's being cyberbullied. They need to know.
So there are hundreds and hundreds of kids out there that know he's being cyberbullied because they're on these threads. And he knows it. But and then the school finds out, but you can't find out.
So Not a single child reports it. The school didn't say anything. Nobody said anything until after he was gone and after my husband and I threatened with a lawsuit. People started to say things, but also started to change their stories so that they can be protected and not get in trouble. There was not a single upstander in the entire situation. If one person would have stepped up and said, Nate Bronstein needs help, we're seeing him being attacked, abused, and harassed online, again, our son would be here today. And I don't think parents are realizing this. They're not teaching their children to say, when you see someone being hurt or attacked, you got to speak up. You're not being a snitch. You're not being a tattletale. You're actually helping getting somebody out of trouble and potentially it's a life-saving intervention.
But I think when you add in the element, the speed and the breadth at which things travel in social media, it's complicated. We get it. You do this for a living. So, it's been complicated for a very long time. But then when you throw into the mix, giving young people a device by which they can communicate with thousands or tens of thousands of people 24/7. And when you're a middle schooler or a high schooler, the nexus of your life is the school. That's how you know the people that you're probably messaging with, for example. And when the schools are either ill-equipped or the schools ignore common sense and decency, and in our case, the law, and then their first, second, third reaction is just to cover their own behinds and their own careers when something bad happens, you can appreciate why, not just in our situation, but on a much larger scale, it's just this sort of combustible issue that's been created. And that's why, and you can look up, can look up the statistics. It's at a crisis point: mental health, suicide, drug abuse, overdoses. It's like we've given our kids these devices. The information comes at them 24/7. Their friends and peers are not speaking up in a way that they ought to be. A lot of them are petrified of not only being ostracized, but that if they say something, maybe their parents will take away their phone. It's frustrating and depressing where we are as a society. I mean, look, our story is terrible and we don't like talking about it. But the reason that we're out here talking about it is because it's common. And I couldn't agree more with Rose, which is that parents need to really wake up, both to what it means to have their kid on the receiving end of some of what goes on, but even to be on the giving end of what's going on out there.
You're absolutely right. Parents have no idea how dangerous social media is for kids. Well, I don't want my kid to have a cell phone, but don't give me the buts. Just say, I don't want my kid to have a cell phone. And the other thing is, what happened to your son is an example of what parents need to know is the Lucifer effect. In 1971, they did a study at Stanford where they took some normal, healthy, average students, boys, and they separated them into two groups. And they did a mock prison. And they had some be the guards and some be the prisoners. Well, these kids were all friends. But after 6 days, they were supposed to run it for 2 weeks. After 6 days, they had to call it. Because what they found is that the prison guards became so abusive to the prisoners that it was dangerous. My point is, when you get a group of boys, even though they can be great boys. Okay. Now the kids who cyberbullied your son, how in the world would you become great boys? But when you get a group of boys, 4, 5, 6 together, even though they might not normally bully somebody, all it takes is one or two to be the nidus of that anger, and it swells. And so a lot of parents who are listening go, oh, my kid had never cyberbullied. Yes, they would, because they're just like those Stanford students who come into this male mass mentality, like, oh, this is kind of fun. I'm going to jump on the bandwagon. And
but you're right. But sorry to interrupt, but I'm going to tell you this too. You're 100% right. And then when it's through a screen, it's even worse because it's just, there's a filter, an additional filter where it's like anyone can be a big shot, behind a keyboard or a screen, and they don't see the punch landing in the way that they would in person.
It's worse than that prison experiment.
Till this day, what makes my insides burn, till this day, the parents of the bullies and the bullies will not admit that what they did is cyberbullying. The parents have defended their kids by calling it a misunderstanding, miscommunication, blaming our son that our son had mental health issues, so it's essentially his fault. Not a single apology from a parent of a bully, not a single apology from any of the bullies. They've all been told it's not their fault. They did nothing wrong. They had nothing to do with it. It's all Nate Bronstein's fault. It's the Bronstein parents' fault. And so these kids were not suspended. They were not expelled, nothing. So then you've got a group of kids who behaved horribly. Now they're going to go through life, right? Thinking that they can behave with impunity. They can do anything they want and they will never be held accountable. To me, what they did to my son, if they had done it in the real world, I equate it to them taking my son around the corner of the school into the alley and physically beating him up to a pulp, 15 of them, punching him, kicking him, and leaving him with internal injuries and walking away and losing him to the internal injuries that they would have done to him physically. It's the same idea. They just did it to him in the virtual world. They messed with his mental state and told him to go kill himself, told him that he was worthless, told him that he was a loser, right? And then one kid told him he should die. That's not any different than taking him around the back of the school and beating him up, 15 of them, and not stopping and just letting him die there. I feel like he was murdered. That's how I feel.
Can you trace any of the comments to specific boys?
Yes, we have. But the kid who told him to go kill himself says he doesn't remember sending it.
It doesn't matter. It's there.
He sent it.
So let's go back to the school. It clearly sounds like the school completely mishandled this, which is interesting because over the past 10 years, we hear so much about, this. Speak up when you're being cyberbullied. We're here for you. We need to talk openly, and that the exact opposite is happening. So where did the school land? Is there a lawsuit?
We sued school. We sued 10 of the families of the bullies, and I can't remember 4 or 5 or 6 of the administrators and the former chairman of the board. And we've settled with, I don't want to get into details because a lot of it's confidential, but we settled with some of the parties, but our litigation against the school and the administrators and the former chairman continues. We know so much of what we're even able to tell you today because we had to fight for it in the context of litigation. A little less than a month after the cyberbullying, he took his life, and the school found out, and the school immediately started having secret meetings and cooking up their crisis management plan and on and on. And some of the kids in the school started talking and parents started finding out, and we didn't know. But one mother of one of the boys who was on the text chain, he didn't participate, he was just on the text chain. The mother of that boy demanded a meeting with the headmaster, and she ended up having a meeting with him and 3 other people. And she laid everything out. She printed out all the text and images and stuff, and she laid it out on the desk and demanded to know what was happening. They acted like they were seeing it for the first time, which was a lie. They promised her that they would look into it. And I believe another week or week and a half went by. And when she saw that there was, obviously they didn't plan on doing anything, she finally reached out to us. We did not know her. She contacted my wife and said, I need to come show you something. We were desperately wondering what had happened and what was behind our son's loss. And knowing that the school knew it, the school failed while he was alive, the school sat on the information after he was gone, the school thought solely of themselves and their own careers. It's an incredibly hard thing to even process, but it's all true.
People listening might go, yeah, but this is a really rare incident. Talk about nationally. Is Nate's story an isolated story? What are the numbers here, just to tell parents, and where are they going? Because I think this is only going to get worse if adults don't stand up and go, enough's enough.
It's already at its worst. It can't get any worse. This is not an isolated incident. Children are being harmed through social media, through cyberbullying every single day. There are children as young as age 9 and 10 dying by suicide after being bullied or cyberbullied.
There are variations. Our story is obviously being cyberbullied by peers, but something that's come up a lot. We've heard, I don't know how long it's been going on, but it's certainly been in the news more recently as sextortion, where, someone will, maybe a 15 or 16-year-old boy will be propositioned by someone pretending to be someone of their age, like a potential romantic partner, and convince them to send compromising photos, and then will either demand money or more photos and all sorts of other things. And it spirals to the point where these kids who've been victimized have committed suicide. Separate, but certainly related, is that, there's a significant social media aspect to the fentanyl crisis, where kids are buying what they believe to be prescription pills, typically, that are obviously counterfeit. And the number one place, to our understanding, that the drug dealers go to sell their product is on social media, particularly Snapchat. Why? Because they know that's where the kids are, and they know the messages disappear. So Snapchat has really created sort of a perfect drug marketplace.
I have to take a quick break, but before I go, I want to invite you to follow me on Facebook. You can find me as Meg Meeker, MD, or simply enter the handle at Meg Meeker, MD. You'll also find a link in the bio for quick access to additional resources. We'll be right back. You know that moment when your child lights up because something finally clicks? That's what every parent wants, to see their child thrive. But when school just isn't the right fit, that joy can fade. That's why I want to tell you about K-12 powered schools. These are tuition-free, accredited online public schools for kindergarten through 12th grade. They're designed to meet your child where they are, so they can learn at their own pace, in their own space, and a curriculum that fits their unique learning style. And here's what sets it apart. This isn't homeschooling. You're not the teacher. K-12's state-certified online educators are trained to make lessons interactive and engaging using innovative technology. And your child still gets social experiences, clubs, extracurriculars, even in-person events. K-12 has helped over 3 million families give their kids the tools to thrive, and they've been doing it for more than 25 years. It could be exactly what your child needs. Visit k12.com/Dr. Meg to find a tuition-free K-12 powered school near you and enroll today. That's k12./DRMEG, all caps. Some days, parenting feels like chasing moments that never quite land. You ask a question, they shrug. You try again, they look at their screen. And you wonder, why is this so hard? That's why I love FamGabs. It's a 70-card deck created by a child therapist who spent 16 years working directly with families, helping parents and kids break through the awkward one-word answers and really connect. The questions are open-ended, thoughtfully chosen, and designed to get your child talking and keep the conversation going. There are even bonus cards just for parents to help you build your confidence in your connection toolbox. If you've ever wished for a better way to understand your child or just to have more meaningful conversations as a family, FamGabs is such a gift. Search FamGabs on Amazon and use promo code DrMegPod during checkout to get 10% off your order. That's FamGabs on Amazon. Use promo code DrMegPod and get 10% off your order. I just wanted to read you a couple numbers that you have on your website that I think our audience needs to know. 37% of students responded they've been a victim of cyberbullying. 69% of students claim that being a victim of cyberbullying has negatively affected their confidence. Second largest discipline issue in public schools, more than doubling during the past decade, is cyberbullying. There's a 4 times higher likelihood of adolescents and teens who are cyberbullied to inflict self-harm, attempt, or commit suicide. And the numbers go on and on. And we're just talking about cyberbullying. We're not talking about sextortion or sex trafficking or drug trafficking. I mean, this is terrifying information. Parents need to be terrified, because the only way they're going to say to their 11, 12, 16-year-old kid, no, you can't be on social media, is to be scared to death. So talk to parents out there now about buckets over bullying and what you do. And maybe then rewrite the script, if you would, about what could have happened with Nate and the completely different outcome you could have had if things would have gone like you talk about in Buckets Over Bullying.
We started Buckets Over Bullying because we realized that there's no education out there at all. So we focus on education, advocacy, and legal action. And just like in any other crisis, like I'm a child from the 80s, right? So the 80s, it was Mothers Against Drunk Driving. You go to high school, they show you the horrific video of what it looks like when you drink and drive, the car crash in front of your high school, right? And that's how children were being lost back then, was drinking and driving. Now in the 2000s, we have this. So I don't think any parent, especially, and we're Gen Xers, so we're the first generation of parents to, for lack of a better word, raise children on digital devices and social media, not knowing what we were handing our children. When I handed my children a cell phone when they were in the 4th and 5th grade, I thought I was handing them a phone. I had no idea. And in my mind, I was like, you know what? This is kind of good. When my daughter goes to the park, I know where she is. When she goes to 7-Eleven with her friends to get a Slurpee, I know where she is. When she gets to her friend's house, she can call me. I'm not the only one. I know we all started out that way. And then they started out with you can make a music video and dance with your friends. And right? It started out very, very benign and very innocent. We had no idea that we're part of like a human science experiment driven by these tech CEOs, Zuckerberg and Spiegel. They look at our children as users. They look at our children as dollar signs, and they're shielded by immunity by Section 230. So when something horrible happens to your child on their platforms, you can't sue them. They throw their hand like, free speech, not our problem. We just provide the platform. So what parents need to know, we are in crisis. It's not like we are heading towards a crisis. We are in crisis. Children are dying every single day through various social media related harms, and it is directly correlated to giving them access to an unmonitored environment in the online world through a phone, through an iPad, through a school computer. And so that is what we're trying to educate our communities with this information. So we support cyber safety education through the Organization for Social Media Safety. They're in California, and they go into K through 12 schools and educate students and parents on social media related harms, what to do when you're being harmed. They talk to parents about how, if you decide to give your child a phone and social media, how to protect them, what to do if they are being harmed. And then and the advocacy side we are very heavily involved in pushing for legislative initiatives, both in the state of Illinois and federally, to start to hold social media companies responsible. They should have a duty of care to our children. If they are Snapchat is marketing their product to children, which they are, then they should be forced to make it a safe place for children. And right now, not.
It's like a store. I mean, you could treat it's exactly a store. Like a store. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Any parent who, in their right mind, say, "Oh, yes, son, daughter, you can go to the Snapchat store," and that parent knew that was the minute they walked in, there'd be an adult selling them fentanyl-laced pills. There'd be an adult asking them for nude photos of themselves. There'd be signs everywhere saying you should kill yourself, you're a loser, you should die, you're ugly, you're fat, nobody likes you. Would a parent let them into that store? Absolutely not. You would say, no, you're not going in there. But at the same time, parents think it's okay to let their kids on Snapchat because the child says, well, everybody else is on it, which I get. I fell into that trap too, right? With our youngest child, we were the last ones to give her a phone. Everyone else has a phone because it does. You've got that like conflict. If every parent is giving their child access to a cell phone and you're not, then you're socially isolating your child. The toothpaste is out of the tube at this point. There's no way to push it back in. The only way to shift and disrupt the status quo is I am imploring parents parents who have their children on social media already and you can't take them off. I get it. It's too late. We have a 19-year-old and a 16-year-old. They're on social media. I can't take this social media away from my 19 and 16-year-old anymore. It's too late. But for those parents who have children who are already on it, you need to educate your children about how to protect themselves online, make sure that the platforms are on the highest security settings, report something harmful, have open conversations with your kids about what to do when they see something harmful or they're being harmed or someone else is being harmed. And parents need to educate themselves. We can't say anymore, I don't know what goes on Snapchat. I don't know how it works. I just know my kid is on it, right? That's part one. Part two, if you are a parent who has a child who is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, this group of parents needs to create a movement in their school communities. Everyone needs to agree there are no cell phones, no social media for any child in our community until X age, whether it's 8th grade or 9th grade or 10th grade. There needs to be like a common agreement, or like the parents have to be like-minded and agree so that everybody is off it. Like that's the only way, because we can't rely on the platforms, we can't rely on government, and we can't rely on the schools.
There's power in numbers. If a number of parents, X number of parents, a small group of parents, even in a kid's classroom, say, we're going to be the parents that are not letting our kids on social media. So kids can't feel that isolated if they're not. I mean, even if you could get 50% of kids on and 50% off, I don't know if that's possible, but I mean, Mothers Against Drunk Driving did well. I mean, they made a big impact.
Absolutely. Look at how much they shifted society and the status quo. The number of drunk driving deaths among that age group has decreased significantly because everyone's been educated. There's liability, right? Like parents know I can't host a party at my house and give alcohol to underage drinkers. If God forbid they leave my house and something happens, I get sued. That doesn't happen in this space right now. And that's what we're pushing for. There are coalitions of parents who are pushing for this, but the only ones that are pushing are people like our parents like Rob and I who have lost a child. So I have tried so hard in my community to rally parents to help, but you know what they think? Not me. It's not going to happen to me, not my child. So they are not interested. It's heads down, eyes down. They think it's not going to happen to them, and they think it only happens to children who have mental health issues.
It's not just victimization. It's also, you read some statistics. Another one that I think is equally disturbing, but in a different way, is that 90% of adolescents will see hate speech on social media. And so I don't know about when you grew up, but when I was 14 or 15 or 16 years old, the idea that 9 out of 10 of my peers would have been seeing hate speech on a regular basis would have been inconceivable. And just think about, even if the kid isn't a victim, just observing these kind of things happening. Imagine like what that does to you in your development and the way you view the world.
Yep. And we're talking about children. We're not talking about adults. We're children.
Yeah. And so for the people who say it won't happen to me, well, guess what? 9 out of 10 are seeing hate speech. Like that alone is enough to be alarming.
Well, and I want to say to parents out there whose kids are young and they haven't even gotten the cell phones yet, the excuse that I have to give my kid a cell phone because everybody has them is not good enough. Have some chutzpah, let's get some spine and go, no, I don't care, because you were sort of at the front of the pack trying to figure all of this out. And so you and your kids, got beaten up, and hopefully the parents coming behind can wise up and go, wait a minute, this is a really, really serious issue. We only have a couple minutes left, but I hope that our listening audience is really sobered by this and realizes this could be your kid, because I've seen a lot of Nates in my life. I've been doing it a long time, and these are the good kids that just get hammered. Give us 3 or 4, and you started to do that, Rose. Very clear things that parents can do today to keep this from happening to their kid. And then specifically, what can they do to kind of keep them away from all the social media?
Delay giving them access to cell phones and social media. And you need a community pact to do so, because without that community pact, it just doesn't work. Educate yourselves on the dangers and the harms before you choose to decide to give your child access to any digital device and social media, and have those conversations with your children before you hand them the phone. You don't just hand them a phone and say, here you go. You need to talk about the different dangers that they can be exposed to, what to do when they see a danger. Like we always tell children in the education curriculum, block and report. Like if you see hate speech, you need to block it and report it to the platform. Then you need to go tell a trusted adult. It's like having these conversations over and over again. Same thing. A perfect example is when your child turns 16 and you're teaching them to get ready to drive a car, you have all these conversations. Have to wear your seatbelt. Don't drink and drive. Don't text and drive. They have to take driver's ed courses. We give them all the safety conversations so that when they get in the car, they know what to do. And the same applies now to having those similar conversations before giving them access to social media, which is unregulated and unmonitored. There are no adults on Snapchat or Instagram or TikTok watching our kids to see what's happening to them, right? You're not going to drop your child off at daycare without daycare people watching your child. It's the same exact idea.
What about safety programs that will block certain things? Do any of them work?
So there's third-party software out there that exists that you can download on your phone and on your child's phone that will send you alerts if your child receives harmful content. It's very, very impactful for cyberbullying, sextortion, the sale of drugs. The one that we know is like the best in class right now is Bark. Here's the problem, though, and here's what we're lobbying for at a federal level and in the state of Illinois and in California. Platforms like Snapchat and TikTok will not allow these third-party platforms to integrate into their systems, because to them, if they do so, they think that they're going to lose the child as a user and the child will jump to another platform. And again, this type of software is like life-saving intervention. It's like a seatbelt for your car. It would be a seatbelt for social media. So they are out there, but they only work, like Android works better and only certain platforms you can get on there. So what we're actually advocating for right now in Illinois and nationally is a law called Sammy's Law. And Sammy's Law was born out of the tragedy that Sam Chapman was impacted by. Dr. Laura Berman and Sam Chapman. Their son, Sammy Chapman, died because he bought a fentanyl-laced pill over Snapchat. It was delivered to his house by a drug dealer like a pizza. And he took the pill, and his parents found him unresponsive in his room on Super Bowl Sunday. So they initiated this law. So what this law will require, it would force Snapchat, TikTok, all the social media platforms that are really large and all of our children are on, all they have to do is flip a switch, open up their API access to allow third-party software like Bark to go into the system and be able to, through AI, set it up so then, for example, in our case, if we had access to Bark and we'd put it on our phone and our son's phone, the minute my son started to get harmful content, especially the kill yourself message, we would have gotten an alert on our phone saying, your son just got harmful content, go check on him. Almost like it beeps on your phone, like if there's like a tornado watch or an Amber Alert
diabetic
on your
kids.
phone. Exactly.
Parents always know the kid's sugar because they each have a watch.
Right.
But what about anything that blocks the messages before they get? Because, with Bark, kids see the message, go kill yourself. But it's almost like some of the damage is done. Are there any good programs that block it beforehand?
Not that I'm aware of. The only way to block it is to block the account. I mean, we teach kids that too. As soon as you receive something harmful from someone, block them. But like you said, it's like there's nothing, the fact that they're in that space is already dangerous. There's nothing, you can't put them on the space in any way where they're safe.
Well, kids should be, the word friend is an odd term that's thrown around, and they should be friends on social media with people whom they actually know, who are their friends in real life. But one of the big ones is gaming. And, you have kids playing these popular video games and they're chatting with other players, many of whom are not even remotely whom they believe them to be. They're adults whose intentions are certainly, I'm not even going to wonder what their intentions are, but they're not other kids playing with kids. Let's just leave it at that. And so, for example, if young people online draw the line at only communicating online with people whom they know in real life, that alone would, to your question about how do you block some of this from happening, it's not foolproof, but it would obviously make a very, very big difference because number one is you know who it is and they're your peers. But secondly, obviously with a veil of anonymity, people will say and do all sorts of things that they wouldn't do if the recipient knew who they were.
Parents should ensure any of their children that are online now that all the settings on their Snapchats and TikToks and Instagram should be set to private. There should be no indication of like where they're located. All these kids like to put on the geolocator to show where they are. Parents need to tell their kids not to take pictures of themselves online, of what school they go to, what city they live in, because that's how predators come after them. I mean, there's no privacy anymore. Parents need to stop taking pictures of their children and posting it online. You don't need the picture on the front porch with your address on it. And my son is starting 8th grade today with the name of the school on their shirt and their name on their backpack. Nobody cares. Nobody cares where you are on vacation.
Well,
nobody cares.
The people who do care are the people you don't want knowing necessarily.
But it needs to stop because it's also coming from the parents. Nobody cares that your kid hit the home run. Like, just stop already,
Well, it makes the other parents feel bad because their kid can't hit the home run. It just is a mess and mess and mess. We're talking about cyberbullying and the life-threatening things that can happen. And my guests have been Rose and Rob Bronstein, founders of Buckets Over Bullying. Rob and Rose, thank you so much for sharing your story, and tell us where our listeners can find you, help you, advocate for you, because I think you need a lot of help behind you to push a movement forward.
Thank you. We appreciate that. Our website, bucketsoverbullying.org. We are offering social media safety education to schools K through 12. We work with the Organization for Social Media Safety, so you can go to our website and get linked directly to them. They travel all around the country to give this programming. We also take donations to help pay for the programming for underserved schools. And we really, really, really could benefit by getting help from parents across the country to help us advocate to put laws in place to ensure that our children are safe online. One, by holding big tech accountable, and two, starting to hold schools accountable for negligence and parents of bullies accountable for their negligence for not teaching their children how to behave online. That's the kind of movement that we need.
I will guarantee you, once you start holding parents accountable and saying they could be sued if their child is involved in something, a lot of this would go away. I'm sorry to say that, but it would. Hit parents where it hurts, and that's their pocketbook. Parents listening to me, please go to bucketsoverbullying.org. We need a movement in our country, and Rob and Rose are doing a beautiful job in getting that going. So they need your support. Their organization needs your money. So let's all start working together. And again, thank you so much, Rob and Rose, for coming on today. As we wrap up today's episode, remember that you can stay connected with us by visiting us at meekerparenting.com. And for all of you parents, I want you to know I'm so excited about a brand new program that I started on coaching dads. So if you're a dad who needs a coach, or you're a mother who wants your husband to be coached, check it out, meekerparenting.com. And always remember that great kids are raised, not born.